Welcome to This Month in Payroll. I'm Rowan Geddes, the Australian lead for PwC's payroll consulting practice. Each month, we aim to provide you with information on key events impacting the payroll function. We hope you find it useful and a convenient way of staying across latest payroll news. While there is a lot of information available online, it is often difficult to find the time to read and digest everything that you need to know. Hopefully, listening to a 15-minute update will make this task easier for you and help keep you informed. While the last month has been light on regulatory change in the community, there have still been a few actions initiated by authorities which are worth noting for payroll functions. In this edition of This Month in Payroll, I'll be discussing the 1 July regulatory changes, Go Live for STP, data privacy, and insight to be gathered from recent Fair Work Commission and Fair Work Ombudsman activities. So here we are, July, the start of the new financial year. Payroll systems should have been updated to incorporate new base rates, penalty rates, tax rates, and superannuation guarantee caps. These changes are: the minimum wage has increased by 3.5%, while superannuation guarantee is now payable on ordinary time earnings up to $54,030 per quarter. Meanwhile, personal tax deductions will drop for employers earning more than $87,000 per year. But the biggest change is to Sunday penalty rates for employees covered under the hospitality, pharmacy, fast food or retail awards. In hospitality, full-time and part-time workers will have the penalty rates decreased by 10%, while casual employees will continue to get the same rate. In retail, full-time and part-time workers will drop by 15%, while casual employees' penalty rates will drop by 10%. In pharmacy, employees' penalty rates will drop by 15%, while in fast food, penalty rates will drop by 10%. And finally, as we start the new year, we close out the old year, which means that payroll departments should have completed the process by now of preparing, reconciling, emailing or mailing their payment summaries. But here's the good news. If you're an employer with more than 20 employees, thanks to STP, that should be the last payment summary you will ever need to do. Yay! On 1 July, single touch payroll commenced for all employers with 20 or more employees. However, many employers have not gone live yet, as most payroll service providers have applied for and received a deferral to a later date, generally 1 October, 1 April or 1 May. In relation to getting ready for STP, our messaging is the same as last month. Ensure your data is correct. Confirm with your IT department that there won't be any firewall restrictions invoked as a result of STP's two-way reporting. Consider what employee communications you need to do around, for example, collecting tax file numbers, dates of birth and addresses. For those employers who are wondering how STP will deal with expatriates, unfortunately we are still waiting on guidance from the tax office. We are keen to hear feedback on how employers are finding STP, and as we gather this feedback, we will relay it through this vidcast and through our payroll manager forums. It's too early to get feedback from employers who went live on 1 July, but we were grateful to receive feedback from an employer who was an early adopter, going live in April, running a payroll of about 100 people. This employer's experience was generally positive. There was an issue discovered and addressed around the installation of the security certificate. The employer discovered that there was no audit trail report to check what was being sent to the ATO agreed to their records. And they discovered that some master data cleansing needed to be done around missing state and country codes, reinforcing the need to be tight on data entry upfront. Finally, the speed of the submission being improved by the ATO was initially slow, but got better over the trial period. This is an issue that we are watching, as a second employer mentioned that, having submitted the STP report, they had to wait several days until the tax office came back and confirmed the submission was correct. Obviously, the quicker confirmation is received from the tax office, the quicker that pay run can be closed off. However, early feedback on STP is promising, but more feedback will be telling. Earlier this year, 2 new pieces of legislation came into effect, both around data privacy. The Australian Notifiable Data Breaches Scheme, referred to as NDB, and from the EU, the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR. Australian government agencies now also need to be aware of the Australian Government Agencies Privacy Code, which commenced on 1 July and set out specific requirements that agencies must take to ensure a best practice approach to privacy governance, including having a privacy management plan, a privacy officer, and undertaking privacy impact assessments. These pieces of legislation shine the light on the importance of data privacy and impose harsh penalties for organisations who fail to have adequate protection, processes and controls in place. And it is having an impact. the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner received 63 data breach notifications under the NDB scheme during the first 6 weeks of the scheme's operation. Some of these have been large and impactful and public, including the disclosure from HR platform PageUp, who notified the OAIC that they believe certain information pertaining to their employees and customers were accessed by an unauthorised third party. Or, recently, BHP, who in every payroll department's worst nightmare, discovered the third party managing the administration of their payment summaries had sent some payment summaries to the wrong employees. Data breaches are not new, and mistakes, while regrettable, do happen. However, the key message here is that payroll departments are operating in an age where there is not only a forum for disclosing privacy breaches, but also an environment where employers are required, rather than encouraged, to publicise that breach. It reinforces again the need for payroll professionals who manage personal data every day to ensure that strict controls are applied to the handling of that data and that those controls are regularly reviewed. This extends to reviewing the controls in place for outsourced providers, onshore and offshore, who handle that payroll data. Key questions that payroll functions should consider include: is your employee data shared or managed by third parties? How many different systems contain personal information of employees? Have your security protocols been reviewed and updated recently? And if a data breach occurred in your department today, would you know how to respond? The issue of how the Better Off Overall test should be applied to agreements which trade penalty rates in exchange for higher hourly pay has been the subject of focus for several years by the Fair Work Commission. Under workplace law, a wage deal must pass the Better Off Overall test, meaning it leaves workers better off than they would be under the relevant award. In the last month, the Fair Work Commission's full bench handed down a decision which gave further guidance as to its view. The Commission rejected enterprise agreements proposed by 3 employers in the security industry because they left some of their casual employees worse off. This decision reinforces the principle that, for an enterprise agreement to be allowed, the boot test must be considered in terms of the effect on individual employees. If an employer is unable to prove upon request that even one employee is not better off overall, then the agreement can, and has been, dismissed. Clearly, this puts a significant strain onto the EA negotiation process because, to meet these requirements, employers are required to undertake greater and greater levels of sample testing to consider all potential impacts, a daunting prospect for large or complex workforces. On 15 July, Australia appointed a new Fair Work ombudsman. After 5 years of service, Natalie James was replaced by Sandra Parker, the former Deputy Secretary of the Department of Jobs and Small Business. Under Natalie's guidance, the Fair Work Ombudsman took a proactive approach to workers' rights and workplace relations, using the media to promote good compliance and to highlight poor behaviours. The results were impactful. The Fair Work Ombudsman has a significant role in promoting harmonious, productive and cooperative Australian workplaces. We acknowledge Natalie James for her efforts, and we look forward to this new chapter of leadership with Ms Parker at the helm. Finally, our next Payroll Managers Forum will be held on 23 August in 6 locations around the country. We are pleased to advise that our guest speaker will be Linda McClary-Smith, who is the Executive Director of Compliance and Enforcement at the Fair Work Ombudsman. She will provide insight on the compliance and legislative considerations that the FWO thinks payroll should be considering. If you haven't already subscribed to our Payroll Managers group, you can do so by visiting our website, pwc.com.au/payroll. I'll have new payroll updates next month, but in the meantime, if you have any payroll questions, you can find information on our website, pwc.com.au/payroll, or email me at rowan.geddes@pwc.com or message me via LinkedIn. Thanks and have a great month.